Today, what we're going to be discussing are the common toxins that are associated with diabetes. But before I go over the toxins, I just want to review with you the specifics of what truly diabetes is and what it's not. As a reminder, if you've watched my videos before in the past, that diabetes is not a blood sugar problem. Blood sugars being elevated are a symptom of your diabetes and not the cause. The cause is truly a cellular disease. Remember, we have trillions of cells. One or two cells being damaged is not going to be the issue. It's when you have multiple cells, millions of cells that are damaged, where you start having problems. And as a reminder, what specifically happens at the cellular area is you have these little receptors that your insulin has to attach to, which then allows a door to open inside the cell and allows the sugar to get into your cells. Remember, if your sugars can't get into your cells, then you can't have normal healthy cells. And if you don't have normal healthy cells, you are not healthy. So what specifically happens in this specific area is we get damage or a problem develop, i.e. things like toxins. And they essentially block the ability for the insulin to get into the receptor and the ability for sugars to get into your cells. Now, as a reminder, what happens to that sugar when it can't enter your cell? It goes right back into your bloodstream, causing elevated sugar. And when that occurs over many, many, many years, it stays high inside your bloodstream. And then what happens? You get diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Now, all the focus right now is doing things to try to lower the sugar, right? Things like nutrition, things like exercise, things like weight loss, even meds are to help to focus to try to decrease blood sugars. Now, unfortunately, by focusing on trying to decrease your blood sugars, is that ever going to fix your cells? No. So then what happens? Your diabetes progresses and the need to increase medications along the way happens. You're taking one medication, second medication, et cetera, until eventually you're full-blown taking insulin. This is not a good model to follow. So what we try to identify is what specific problems or causes are addressing here. Why is this problem happening and stopping the ability for your cells to receive the sugars? That's what our focus is. If you want to learn more about some other mechanisms, make sure you watch one of our previous videos. But today we're going to focus on toxins. Why do I want to focus on toxins? Because toxins are coming out right now in the literature indicating the specific damage that these toxins do to the body, more specifically to the cells themselves, and driving conditions like type 2 diabetes. There are multiple toxins that are out there that specifically cause diabetes. And if you're not being evaluated for these, you're missing the boat and your diabetes will only get worse. So I want to focus on a few of these, but there are three types of toxins that are going to drive cellular damage. Those three toxins, number one, mold. Number two are heavy metals. And number three are environmental. So let's talk about some of the specifics here, because mold toxicities can come from multiple different avenues. So things like water damage building, right, are common exposures to mold. So you could have been 20 years old and you were living in your first apartment and there was a water damage issue in the apartment prior to you living there, and they just painted over it. And next thing you know, you're living there for a year or two, being exposed to these mold toxins, you're not even recognizing it. And it could be 10, 20, 30, 40 years later before enough of that damage occurs and it starts impacting your cells and you get diagnosed with diabetes. Another area of common toxin we have here are heavy metals. Well, heavy metals can be associated through things like food or air or soil type things as well. So the soil that they grow our food in can get into your food and you're consuming these types of things. But oftentimes some of these foods have natural heavy metals associated with them as well. We'll talk about some of those heavy metals. Environmental toxins is a huge one because this is something we're all being exposed to on a daily basis, and it's really damaging our body at multiple levels, not only at the cellular level we're talking about here today, but your organs and tissues and systems are also being damaged. So environmental toxins are things like plastic, pesticides, herbicides, things we get exposed to for like car emissions or other types of toxins that are out there that we're all utilizing. And so these are all important that you know what they are and how you get exposed. But not only how you get exposed, but the impacts they're having on your body here today. So these are 3 types of toxins. If you're not being evaluated for these types of toxins that could be contributing to your cellular damage, you can't reverse your diabetes. Because if these types of toxins exist inside your body, then you're gonna cause cellular damage. And if you're only focusing on trying to lower the sugars, you're not gonna get better. But there are some toxins that are specific to type 2 diabetes in general. And those types of toxins are called endocrine disruptors. So what does that mean? This is an important word I want you to understand, because the endocrine system is essential to blood sugar regulation. Think about this. What is the type of doctor who specializes in treating type 2 diabetes? They're called an endocrinologist, because the endocrinologist specializes in the endocrine system, which includes blood sugar regulation. So when you have toxins that are endocrine disruptors, these block normal blood sugar regulation at the cellular level, at the site. It literally blocks it right there. And when these toxins stay in your body for 10, 20, 30, 40 plus years, they start impacting multiple millions of cells that leads to your diagnosis of diabetes. Other types of toxins that are specifically can cause type 2 diabetes, there's a toxin called TG. This is an environmental toxin. This toxin actually disrupts inside the cell and outside the cell. So even if you don't have it impacting outside the cell, it blocks the ability to get the sugar into your engines of your cell. So it's a very damaging, which is why TG has been shown through the science to cause not only type 2 diabetes, but also type 3 diabetes, which is referred to as Alzheimer's and dementia. Very, very important, very, very problematic toxin. The next one we see here are things that are called phthalates. And phthalates are what's found in things like plastic. They're referred to as plasticizers, where they make plastic more durable, more flexible, and any types of things that have plastic in it. This guy has been directly associated with type 2 diabetes. This can be found in things like cosmetics, plastic water bottles, and other types of products out there. Very, very damaging and very common that we see in a lot of our type 2 diabetic. Another one that we see that's very common is called arsenic. Now, arsenic is a heavy metal. Again, it's directly linked to type 2 diabetes. And it's found in a lot of things that we consume, things like our food supply. Very common to see in things like white rice, which is oftentimes recommended to some diabetics be eating because it's a better type of carbohydrate, if you will, but very damaging. You could be consuming these things. But it could also be found in water supply and types of soil as well, that we, depending on where you are throughout the country. So these types of toxins are not uncommon that we commonly see in our diabetics who are dealing with diabetes. So here's the thing, I'll say this again. If you have these types of toxins in your body right now and you don't know, are you going to be able to fix your cells? No. And again, this is exactly the reason why so many individuals tend to get worse with time, because all of their focus is trying to lower the sugars and never addressing the cause at the cellular damage here. So unless you're getting evaluated for these specific types of toxins and doing comprehensive testing, how are you going to reverse your diabetes? You can't. And that's why so many people are frustrated and they continue to get worse and they continue to take more and more medications on a daily basis. So hopefully this information is starting to help you try to understand a little more of why you have type 2 diabetes, why things are progressing, but more importantly, the steps you need to take to start addressing these problems once and for all. You have to be evaluated. You have to be evaluated comprehensively. All right, you guys, thank you for joining me today. Be on the lookout for next week for our next video as we talk more about diabetes and the steps you need to do to start reversing your diabetic condition. Take care.